Tonight, well, they're back. The lame duck Congress has begun, and there is lots on Capitol Hill moving and shaking. But everyone wants to know one thing. Are your taxes going up or not? Republican Senator John Thune joins us live. And before I ask you about taxes, and good evening, sir, I should say. Good evening and welcome back to Washington.
Good evening, Greta.
Before I ask you about taxes, I understand that you are going to do something about discretionary spending.
Right. We have an organizational meeting tomorrow, and a number of resolutions are going to be offered. I'm going to offer one that would take us back to the 2008 spending levels, index that for inflation, and that saves about $450 billion over 10 years and $90 billion next year alone.
Why not include all spending, the mandatory as well as the discretionary?
Well, we have to take on mandatory spending. We've got to take on entitlement programs. That's where the real money is, as they say. But this is an important first step, and I think it will demonstrate to the American people that we're serious. Because if we can do this on discretionary spending, and by the way, that's gone up 21% in the last 2 years at a time when inflation in the overall economy is 3.5%. So it's grown at 6 times the rate of inflation. But we do have to have the entitlement program debate, because that's growing to be about 2/3 of the budget.
Well, the discretionary spending I had looked up before we came in here today is about 37% of our spending. And always when I practiced law, if you wanted 37% or something, you'd ask for all of it. For instance, if you say, let's cut all spending, everyone will say, no, not all. And you say, okay, let's just do discretionary. And then everyone's happy that they only did 37%.
Well, in order to get out into the mandatory part of the budget, you have to go in, the authorizing committees have to go in and change the law. The discretionary part is something that Congress appropriates for annually. And it actually is getting, that part of it shrinking. About 1/6 of it is non-defense discretionary spending, and then about 1/6 of it is defense. Then you've got interest on the debt, then you've got Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, your entitlement, what we call mandatory spending, along with some other types of programs. So it's a little more complicated. It's more complicated.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, taxes. We understand that there's some discussion, quote, of compromise. How do you compromise on this whole issue? Because the Democrats say that they want the tax cuts to expire for those who make $250,000, and the Republicans say no.
Right.
So where's the compromise possibilities?
I suppose it could be argued that the compromise would be extending everything for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, something along those lines. I mean, we would like to see them extended permanently, because we believe that businesses, small businesses in particular, need economic certainty. Right now they don't have that. There is so much concern about what's happening in Washington and what's going to happen next with taxes that it's hard to make long-term decisions. When small businesses plan, when they look at whether or not they want to invest or create jobs, they need certainty, and today they don't have it. So we think that ought to be extended permanently. The Democrats, of course, would like to extend it just for certain income levels, but I think when you've got an economic downturn like we're facing today, the worst thing that you can do is raise taxes. It kills jobs.
Well, the Democrats think that if you extend it to everyone, that the amount of money the Treasury will be missing is going to be devastating to our national economic situation. Has anyone done a study to see to what extent our economic situation, if you take the money that instead of taking the money from people who make over $250,000 a year, if they reinvest it, or if they supply more jobs? Has anyone actually tried to compare the two?
There are a lot of economic models that are used to do that kind of analysis that you're talking about. Most of the economists, I think the number I saw recently was 18 of the 31 of the prominent economists have said that we need to extend the tax relief if you want to grow the economy and create jobs. Now, the CBO has said that if you don't extend the tax relief, that it's going to cost you anywhere from about 0.5 point to 1.5 points of economic growth. I think that's probably the more compelling argument and logic for doing this. If you want to grow the economy and expand the economy, which ultimately is the way that we're going to get people back to work, and ultimately the way we're going to deal with many of the deficit debt issues that we're facing in the country, we've got to expand the economy.
All right, it's no secret. We've known since 2001 that this tax was going to expire, and now we're sort of up against the line. Has any Democrat called you from the White House or from leadership in the last month or 2 months and said, let's talk about this?
Not about that. We've had conversations with Democrats. I think that the rhetoric going into the election season...
Don't you find that appalling? I mean, well, I tell you why, because as a taxpayer citizen, it's distressing to me that, all of a sudden now all this pressure to have this, right, and all the fighting and juggling and lines in the sand, and, all the discussion about who's going to do what, when everyone in Congress and the Senate and the White House knew this was going to happen. It
wasn't like we didn't know it was coming.
Right.
And we did have votes back in August, or not in August, we weren't in August, but July and September, to try and force this issue. But at that time, the Democrats didn't want to talk about it. They were going in, it was the run-up to the elections. I don't think they wanted to have a big debate on taxes, particularly particularly this one, going into an election. And so it just gets put off. And here we are. We procrastinated. We're at the 11th hour. We've got all this uncertainty in the economy about what's going to happen with taxes on January 1st, and nothing's been done.
All right, this is a good year to die. There's no estate tax. This is a good year to die for your heirs. What are you going to do about estate taxes?
Well, I would like to see the estate tax issue hitch a ride on these other, on the 2001, 2003 tax issues, because I think the estate tax has to be dealt with. I mean, it goes down to $1 million exemption and 55% top rate on January 1. I mean, think about what that does to a farmer or rancher in South Dakota.
It's huge. It means that it means the family farm can't stay with the family.
Correct. And that's another thing that so many folks out there are looking for. They're looking for some leadership in the Congress and from the President to say, let's solve this thing and let's provide some certainty so that people can make plans.
And in the meantime, we just run up against that line.
Well, we do, and again, you know, you look at 2001, 2003. There are a number of tax provisions that expired already a year ago that haven't been extended. So if you're doing business in this country, you have absolutely no certainty. How can you make any decisions about the future, about investment and adding jobs when you don't know what the rules are going to be?
Would you compromise and raise, instead of doing $250,000, do it to $1 million?
I don't know why you have to create these artificial distinctions.
So the answer is no?
The answer is no. I mean, I think that what you want to do, if you believe that the best way to grow jobs and to grow the economy in this country is to keep taxes low and to allow small businesses, which are creating 2/3 and 3/4 of the jobs in our economy, to get out and do that, then the worst thing that you can do is raise taxes on them, which, if you raise them on those higher income levels, is what happens.
Senator, thank you. Nice to see you, sir.
Always good to be with you, Greta.